the Renault Talisman. Renault has perhaps a bit of a special meaning for us because we started this channel with a Renault car. So perhaps it's no surprise that we have the Talisman for the 6th time now. We started with a 1.6, then moved to a 2.0. We had less equipment, more equipment, 200 horsepower with a diesel, with a petrol, and now we have a Renault Talisman RS. Okay, let's make one thing clear. It's not really an RS. That's my idea, but it does have an RS engine. Of course, it's not as powerful as the one in the Megane RS, but it does have 1.8 liters, 4 cylinders, and 225 horsepower. Lovely. Because we've had this car so many times, there's not much I can tell you more about it, except that it's got this lovely color. But I found something interesting here, these instructions. And if you ever wondered what they mean, well, that means if you have a helicopter, then you definitely have to get a book with a big eye on it and put a thermometer into water. And if it's snowing and you have a bit of oil with you, then you can go to Croatia and one of the islands called Pag there. If there's a fire, then it's gonna snow quite badly apparently. And of course, do not buy or bring a high pressure washer with you. Do not. Well, now you know. Pit Stop. Always happy to offer expert advice. We've known the Talisman for a while now, and ever since I first saw it a few years ago, it still hasn't lost its elegance. The car, especially this 4-door version, looks great. Beautiful on the outside, depending on equipment level, it's going to be wrapped in leather inside. The dashboard also houses the R-Link infotainment screen, now on the way out. The leather is light and dark colored, which I think is the best of both worlds. Dark where there's most wear and tear and dirt, while light towards the top, which makes the car a nicer place to be and gives a feeling of spaciousness. But more than that, you're probably wondering about the engine. Okay, so this Renault Talisman with the Initiale Paris equipment level, which is the highest one, I believe that's how you pronounce it, is now the alpha and omega of Renault's, well, offers with this segment. Is it enough? It is. Yes, of course, Renault does offer even bigger cars, obviously, like the Koleos or the Espace. But as far as this segment is concerned, which unfortunately is dying out apparently because everyone wants SUVs, this is it. This is as good as it gets. And I have a lot of equipment in here. I've got leather perforated seats, which I think look pretty fantastic because they've got this interesting grayscale going on. Black at the bottom, and then gradually they get whiter and whiter on the top. So it's a pretty nice contrast between the black and the, well, it's not really white, it's more like light gray up here. So it makes this nice contrast. I've got a big navigation infotainment screen here. I've got a digital instrument in the center. I've got a head-up display, even though I would prefer it to be on the windscreen, of course. I've got reversing cameras, I've got LEDs at the front and the back. I have four-wheel steering, for example, which makes it a lot more agile. And of course, I have this 225 horsepower RS engine. If you've been watching my videos on the channel, then you're most likely quite acquainted with the Renault Talisman. You know that it's a larger sedan, it's luxurious, it has a lot of equipment that you can get optionally and as standard. Everything that I mentioned here before, plus more things, plus massaging seats and so on and so forth. And it's a very likable car. I really like. I love how it looks from the outside, especially in this color. I would never have thought that I would really like something based on, what is this, like purple, very dark purple color that sort of changes depending on whether it's sunny or not. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. And the car just generally looks elegant, luxurious and aggressive at the same time. But here's the main thing. Of course, it drives very nice. It's quite interesting because it has four-wheel steering, which means that it's quite agile in parking spaces, for example, and it's maybe a little twitchy in the bends, but that's only in your mind because you're usually not used to cars with four-wheel steering. But here's the main thing. Like I said before, what does this RS engine cost to this car? What does it do? How does it transform it, if it does transform it at all? Unfortunately, this is not Germany, so we don't have autobahns here. So I cannot show you like, oh, listen! Yeah, I am going over 200 kilometers per hour now and the car is just fine, and so on and so forth. I cannot do that, but I can tell you that if you heard the engine over there, even though I was screaming, it does have that sort of RS sound, the Megane RS feel to it. Yes, it doesn't have the Akrapovic exhaust system or the regular sport exhaust system, so it's a lot quieter, and of course the engine also isn't as aggressive and as brutal as it is in the Megane, but it does give you that idea, wait a second, this is familiar, at least to those of us that have driven the Megane RS, and it's a nice feeling. The engine can get a little bit loud when you press your throttle or press your foot down, but it's not annoying. It's a nice sound. It's a sound that you want when you actually press your foot down, because it's power. It means power. And with 225 horsepower and I don't know how much torque it has enough. It's fun. It's a big, luxurious car, this, and it's so nice having enough power to do whatever you want or whatever you have to do, and have fun doing it. I mean, you'll probably be surprising many a driver, because they'll be looking at you saying, oh, you've got a Renault with a, probably some 2-liter diesel engine, it won't go very fast, and then you just rock it away. It's fun. You might be seeing my grin right now, and this engine does make you a little bit naughty, just a little bit naughty. Especially when there's a Mercedes behind you, a big Mercedes, and he probably thinks, well, what are you gonna do in your little Renault, huh? And then you put your foot down in sport mode, and there's no more Mercedes, even though it was trying, but failing. So it's naughty. But then you probably become a little less naughty when you look at the average fuel consumption. And before I tell you what the average fuel consumption is, of course, you have to understand that this is a 1.8 liter turbocharged engine with 225 horsepower, and obviously we didn't really drive it that economically. But of course, if you do get an engine like this, it's not for driving economically all the time. You want to have a little bit of fun. So I think this is fairly realistic. Okay, ready? 8.2 liters per 100 kilometers. I bet you were expecting worse, actually. I mean, it's not great, but like I said, it's a petrol. It's a turbo petrol, 225 horsepower, big, heavy-ish car. And you do have to have a little bit of fun every now and then. And if I remember correctly, when we had the Megane RS many years ago, the first time we had it, and we drove up some serpentine roads and such, I believe the average consumption rose up to 22.5 liters per 100 kilometers. So this is very economical. So the final question is, would I recommend you getting this engine if you're buying the Renault Talisman? Well, from a completely fun viewpoint, I would say yes, because it's a 1.8 liter petrol, turbo petrol. It's got 225 horsepower. It revs up to 6,000. It's got a good sound when you punch it. It's fun. It is a lot of fun for this car. This car really benefits from this, and I love it. But of course, I do understand that if you're going to buy this car and you're going to be driving it long distances, for example, on motorways mainly and such, you're most likely going to get something more economical, like a diesel engine, even the 200 horsepower diesel, which is a nice engine. But really, if you are buying a more powerful Talisman, do think about this engine if the fuel consumption is not really an issue for you, because it's just fun. So now I have to talk about minuses. Sorry, Renault. There's two minuses. One of them pretty big, one of them pretty small. Let's talk about the small one first. The small one is just my preference, but this is an automatic car with a dual clutch transmission and 225 horsepower, and it doesn't have any flappy paddles over here by the steering wheel, which I think it would really be nice to have in a car like this. But okay, that's a tiny minus. Now the second thing, which is a pretty big minus I would say in my book, is that the dual clutch transmission is fine 95% of the time. However, it's far too aggressive at the wrong times, and that's when you're trying to park, or like this, when you're trying to go a constant speed at lower speeds, for example in a traffic jam. So right now I'm not moving my throttle at all. I'm going 35 kilometers, yet the car is going throttle, no throttle, throttle, no throttle, throttle, no throttle. It seems that there is a dead zone between 0% throttle and about, I don't know, 10 to 15% throttle. There's nothing in between. So if you're trying to go slowly in a traffic jam, and even if you're using a limiter, you'll feel the car judder, like throttle, no throttle, throttle, no throttle, throttle, no throttle. It's extremely annoying, and I don't know why it does that, but there is nothing between 0 and 15% of throttle. It is very annoying. And the other thing I mentioned is parking. I hope you're not being blinded by the sun here. Parking is also quite annoying because you're going very slowly, you have your foot on the brake, and you're pressing it because it's an automatic, so you're creeping forwards, and as you're coming to a stop, because you don't want to crash into the building in the front, you're slowing down, and the car thinks, oh, you're slowing down, you're about to stop, I will disengage the clutch, which it does. And at that point, of course, because you still are stepping on the brake, the car almost completely comes to a halt, and you think, uh-oh, I better take my foot off the brake so it'll engage the clutch again, which you do, but it does engage it even before you get your foot off the clutch, off the brake completely, which means that it suddenly lurches forward and you almost crash into whatever is in front of you. I know it's something that you just have to get used to and, think about it and learn it, but it is very annoying because it's like, let's use launch control when parking. That would be great. And one more thing. I have the seat cooling on all the time, on maximum, and I don't really feel much, to be completely honest. I'm sweating like a pig. It is quite hot outside and I don't have air conditioning on, but I would expect at least a little bit of an effect. I mean, it uses fans to push some air through the perforated leather, and of course when you sit on it, you're pretty much blocking all of those little ports. So you have to do this, and you have to get off the seat to make a little bit of room, and then you can feel it a little bit, but oh well, never mind. Either way, apart from all these minuses, every car has them, this is a pretty nice car. It's a lovely, luxurious, fun car with this engine. I would be completely happy driving this long distances. I mean, this road is also quite bad, but I don't feel it. This is a good car. Renault is right to have this as their flagship. The Talisman with this engine can be yours starting at 33,500 euros. If you'd rather have the highest equipment level and all the extras, you'll be paying 39,500 euros.